Hey, my Jason. Welcome to another Marvel United unboxing. This is for Fantastic Four, The Coming of Galactus. So this is our second Fantastic Four set. The first one was in Season 2 with the actual Fantastic Four set. This is a Kickstarter exclusive box. It doesn't have any extra, just all Kickstarter. But it has some really cool stuff. So we're going to get 3 brand new villains, 1 anti-hero, plus the big Galactus challenge himself. So it actually ends up being 3.5 game modes in here. So we have 1 big game mode where we can fight against Galactus. We have a second game mode where we can fight against just his heralds, if you want to fight them as a group. The half mode is because there's actually a mode that lets you use any other villain that you own as one of the heralds. So it's kind of a neat way of swapping other characters and mix and match and play against a different team of villains. And then the fourth way is you can play against each villain and the anti-hero villain version by themselves like any other normal villain, which is really cool. That they didn't. So unlike the Horseman of Apocalypse set where you fight against the Horseman and then Apocalypse, but they don't have their own dashboards. These guys each have their own dashboards. You can fight each one separately. So it's a really neat concept. So yeah, before we hop into all the other cool stuff, let's take a look at the locations. Actually, it's not even take a look at the locations. We're going to first just look at Galactus's mode. Normally, I go through all the heroes and all the villains and stuff first. I just want to jump right in to Galactus because he is the big daddy of the set. He's, I think, the bigger selling point. So he's going to get this big, giant dashboard here. It's just going to have special setup. Instead of using the standard 3 missions, shuffle the Stop Galactus mission deck, placing the Convince Galactus' Spare Earth mission at the bottom. Then reveal the top mission. Shuffle the Master Plan deck and remove 6 random cards from the game. Heroes start in the location corresponding to the continent where they are playing. Set aside 2 new Herald threat cards, placing the others as usual. Threat tokens are not used in this game. Place Galactus on the back of this dashboard in the middle of the 6 locations facing the heroes. And you can actually play as a supervillain. Someone can play as Galactus. So, here we have his big, giant board. It'll play in the field, and we'll have the locations that will go around this. So, he's got a couple of things here. So, let's see if I get that to maybe stand a little bit, and I can kind of move this down. Special rules. Galactus never becomes under pressure, and heroes cannot damage him. When Galactus moves, rotate him clockwise to face the location corresponding to the movement number. When a hero is KO'd, Galactus does not activate his BAM. Instead, draw a master plan at it face down to the storyline. When a hero completes a mission, immediately reveal the next one. So for his BAM effect, in the location Galactus is facing, discard all Thug civilian theirs. Each hero there must discard 1 action token if they have any, and deal 1 damage to each hero there. He draws attention, he's going to wipe everything out. And then as the other side here, we have Overflow. If 1 or more tokens cannot be added to a location, draw a master plan, add it face down, and Heroic Goal. Heroes win if they complete all Stop Galactus missions. So, your goal is to stop Galactus himself. So, let's back this camera back up so we can see him. I'm actually going to set this off to the side. I don't do that very often. But here we have our massive Galactus miniature, which looks really cool. I got done painting a Sentinel, and that took me forever. This is going to take weeks to paint for me. There's his base. He's got like a moon on there. He's got a little symbol showing which direction he's facing. So yeah, he starts on the board like this. Then when you have to move him, it says move 3 clockwise. You move him like 1, 2, 3, and he'll face whatever direction he needs to face. So definitely really cool. Comparison size to a regular character. Here's Terax, one of his heralds. I just want to do another comparison here. There is a Sentinel, and there is Goliath. One of the other oversized characters. Just so you still get a scale. So yeah, Galactus isn't going to be like the Marvel Zombie one, where he is 3 feet tall, but he is definitely a lot bigger than all the other characters. So that's pretty cool there. If you want, as a comparison to the Marvel Zombie one, I'm not going to say I'm next to him, but there's my Marvel Zombie one. That's next to all the original Marvel United boxes. So he's pretty darn tall. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. You get his thing. He's going to have his special deck of cards. His threat cards and his Stop Galactus cards. So you'll have on the bottom, here's a bottom of the deck. So we'll look at those in a moment. I'm going to scooch Galactus off to the side. We're going to now look at the locations. And the reason why I did this in a different order was because these locations will have Fantastic Four. Coming of Galactus, they are only supposed to be, or I shouldn't say they can only be used for this mode. When you're playing this mode versus Galactus, you can only use these locations. Now again, like every other thing ever I say in these videos, it's your game. You can ultimately do whatever you want. But the idea is because you're trying to eat part of the world. These are also supposed to be placed in a specific order listed in the book. In the instruction book here. So they want them placed in the order of Asia, Africa, Europe, South America, North America, and Oceania. Or you can opt to shuffle them if you want. Other locations cannot be used. I would say if you are going to use other locations, granted you could use anything else. You want to keep it kind of thematic. I don't know if there's enough other locations. I have to go through all my locations, see if there's one of their other planets. I know we got some kind of like Scar, or Sakaar from World War Hulk. I think there's probably like War of the Kings has Talik 5, which is like the Shi'ar, like their throne world. Like you could use all the different planets, and like maybe going around the galaxy eating planets instead of just Earth. That might be a different thing, but alright, so we have Asia here. End of your turn, you may have any combination of 2 civilians or thugs go location. We have Africa. You may discard 1 card from your hand to the bottom of your deck to defeat 1 thug and rescue 1 civilian in a single location. In Europe, you may draw 3 cards from your deck. If you do, you must discard 3 cards from your hand to the bottom of your deck. South America, you may discard 1 card from your hand to the bottom of your deck to gain 1 wild token, plus action tokens equal to the symbols at the bottom of the card you discard. North America, you may discard 1 card from your hand to the bottom of your deck to swap any card from your hand with 1 face up in your storyline. And then finally, Oceania. You may KO your hero and remove them from the game, discarding any action tokens and choose a different hero on your turn start at this location. Oh, that's pretty crazy, right? Getting to swap to a completely different character. That's kind of fun. Cool. So let's look at some of Galactus' stuff. So let's look at our mission cards first. Let's see what we're, as heroes, are trying to do. So we have... You're going to complete these one at a time. So, like, if the first one comes up is rescue civilians, by doing calm down civilians, every time you rescue a civilian, you complete this. Now, if you ever rescue any and this card's not out, or it doesn't have a spot for them, they're ignored. So you gotta do these kind of in order, but that's why they're randomly shuffled up. We have defeat thugs the same way. If this isn't in play, you don't count them. Or if you rescue civilians and this isn't in play. Defeat Firelord. If Firelord has already been defeated, put him back into play 3 health in the first location with no threats. Start Galactus facing clockwise. And you have 1 for defeat Terrax, the same thing. Defeat Nova, and defeat Airwalker. So basically, you gotta defeat the 4 heralds that you fight against at the same time. They're roaming around the board. But we do have the ability to If you defeat them ahead of time, they'll come back. Then we have one of the special ones, which is Steal the Ultimate Nullifier. Now, these have linked locations. You have to play both at the same time. So to complete the top one, you have to play two move, or a move and a heroic. Now, you don't have to complete all 3 spots at one turn, but you have to place 2 tokens or actions at the same time. Then the last one, which would be bottom of the deck, which is actually stop him, is Convince Galactus to spare Earth. Same thing, you have to play sets of heroic tokens. So those are basic tokens there, which are pretty cool. Alright, then he has his threat cards. So we're going to go ahead and look at those. These are his henchmen, which will run around the board, or be on the board. So we have Fire Lord. Deal 1 unpreventable damage to 1 hero in this and the opposite location. We have Nova. Deal 1 unpreventable damage to 1 hero in this and both adjacent locations. Terax. Deal 3 damage to 1 hero in this location. Airwalker. Deal 1 damage to each hero in locations with 1 or more Thug. He's got 2 copies of the Power Cosmic. As long as this threat is in play, hero special effects are treated as blanks. You definitely want to take out these right away. Then he has 2 more extra ones that you can end up getting. These don't start out. These are the 6 that start on the board. These 2 can get added later on, which are New Herald. It says, bam, deal 1 damage to 1 hero in this and both adjacent locations. So what does the New Herald card do? Alright, here we go. I want to grab this. So it says, when a new Herald threat is brought into the game by the effects of chooses New Herald Master Plan, place the first location with all the threats, starting with 1 from Galactus' basing, proceeding clockwise. Place 4 health tokens on it. Choose any hero or villain not in play, and place its game piece on the new Herald threat. That game piece will not move and will stand the threat for the rest of the game unless the threat is cleared. So it's kind of neat. So, this is basically being like, he's like, oh, you defeated Terax the Tamer. I'm going to summon a new Herald. He can summon any character you have from the game. Now, they're not going to have any of their special effects or conditions that they have. But it is a neat little idea that lets you kind of mix and match some of your other characters from the game. Which is pretty fun. Then we also have, as an addition to that, we have another really cool thing. Is we have 2 extra cards here. Another threat and another Stop Galactus card. Our threat is Silver Surfer. So hey, if you want to play against Silver Surfer, and you have the Fantastic Four set you can use. And if you don't, you can always put something else on here. But that's kind of neat. You can add him as one of the heralds as well, which definitely makes sense. So bam, deal 2 damage to 1 hero here. Then if there's a location with no threat further this way from the hero. Let me start that again. Then if there is a location with no threat farther from this one, from the hero who will play next, move Silver Surfer there. Silver Surfer can also be damaged using heroic actions. If you swap this out, you also swap in his defeat Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer is already defeated, put him back in with 4 health in the first location with no threats. So if I want to swap out Terax for Silver Surfer, I can do that, or I can swap out Nova. It just lets you get a different Herald to immediately play as, which is really cool. Alright, then we are going to have Galactus's big old deck here. So he's going to have his mission deck. Now, when you are playing this, you're going to have 24 cards in the deck. You're going to remove 6 random cards. So you're going to have a little bit of a variety every time you play. You don't always know what you're going to get. So we're going to start with, he has 2 copies of Massive Panic. Moves in 1, says add 1 civilian to each location Galactus is not facing. So everyone's moving to the other areas. We have 2 copies of Massive Turmoil. Add a Thug to each location Galactus is not facing. We have some more Massive Panics. We have 2 copies again, but now he moves 2. Same thing, we have 2 copies with Massive Turmoil, but he has 2. We're going to do that again with 2 copies for 3. 2 copies for 3, 2 copies of Massive Panic for 4, 2 copies of Massive Panic, or Massive Turmoil for 4, 2 copies of Massive Panic for 5, and 2 copies of Massive Panic, or Massive Turmoil for 5. So very simple ones. Basically, all this is going to do is keep rotating around the board, and then he's going to activate, or he's going to keep trying to move them. But every location that doesn't have one, his overflows, again, if it ever overflows, he adds a master plan. So if he turns, he's going to potentially add, or not every time he turns, he's always going to add 5 extra thug or civilians out. So he can easily overwhelm some of these locations fairly quickly if you're not paying attention. Then he does have 2 extra cards here. He has Power Cosmic Release. Add 3 civilians to the location Galactus is facing. Then if any Power Cosmic Threat cards have been cleared, put one of them back into the first location without a threat. So he's going to be able to bring back his Power Cosmic Threats. And then the last 2 cards are Choose a New Herald, which add 3 thugs to location Galactus is facing. There are any location with no threat. Choose a hero or villain not in play. Place your game piece with a new Herald threat card in the first location. So cool. So you guys, ones that are just going to drop a bunch of guys in one area. Now, dropping 3 guys in any area could be pretty bad. So if we look at these locations, this one already starts with 2 spots. So he's going to overflow pretty quick. 2 open, 2 open, 2 open, 2 open, and 2 open. So if he gets one of those 2 cards right off the bat on his first turn, he's going to overflow in a location immediately. Even on the other one, since every spot only has 2 spots open, after his first activation, if you haven't cleared anything, he's going to immediately have everything won away. So it's going to take 3 turns at most before he'll overcome all of that. Awesome. Alright, so then the other mode we have is the Herald mode, which we will look at right now, and then we'll look at the individual characters at the end. Drop those guys there. Back up the camera a bit. So we have the Herald of Galactus mode. It says, place the 4 Herald villain dashboards nearby, each one with its health either 3 or 4, depending on the number of players. Randomly place 4 Herald tokens face up in each different slot on the Herald dashboard. So we're going to have these Herald tokens, 2 for each character. We're going to place 1 up on each side on there. Heroes start the game in any 2 opposite locations, splitting as they wish between them, then randomly place 1 Herald in each other location. Create crisis token pool within reach of players. The basic are 18, the tough are 15. Alright, so your board is going to end up looking basically like this. So you're going to have yours here. You're going to place heroes on one side or the other. The heralds in the other 4 locations. Their dashboards all across the top because you're playing against all 4 at the same time. And then they have their threat cards around the outside and the Herald of Galactus Master Plan deck. Alright, and then you see put your tokens up here at the top. So whichever ones you draw. So you could put them as, the same order. Terrax, Spider-Lord, Airwalker, Nova, or you could randomize them. It doesn't really matter. So they're going to have a couple of different things on here. So, at the very top we have how they take actions during each turn. So when we draw our first Herald of Galactus card, for example, this one's going to show whoever is the current person is going to move 5 and do a BAM and do all these effects, right? So whoever has the first token, so if I have Terrax up in the first spot, he will fully resolve the Master Plan card as if it were played by this villain. Then whoever's next in line will add 1 thug to their location. The third one will add 1 civilian, and then the fourth one will add 1 crisis token to the villain location, and give 1 crisis token to each hero there. Then after that, every character shifts over. So whoever is in 2 becomes 1, and whoever is in 1 becomes 4. So everyone's going to get a turn to be essentially the villain for the turn, where the other ones are just adding extra effects. Special rule. All villains' special rules, overflow effects, and villainous plots are ignored and replaced by the ones on this dashboard. When master plan cards played face up on the starting, follow the steps from 1 to 4. Then move all heralds 1 token slot to the left. The token in slot 1 going to the rightmost slot in use. When villain is defeated, discard their corresponding herald token from the dashboard if necessary, moving the remaining tokens to the left to cover empty slots. When a hero is KO'd, no BAM is activated. Instead, draw a master plan card and add it face down. So we'll still have our regular civilian thug threat mission cards. All that is going to happen as well. So kind of showing what the villain turn looks like. So Nova would activate her stuff, and then afterwards everyone would scoot over. She'd go to the end. And then here it's showing if Firelord got defeated, Airwalker and Nova move over, then you no longer activate step 4. So as they get less and less, they're only going to do less things. On the bottom down here, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, we have overflow. If a token can't be added to a location, increase the Herald's plot track by 1. So Herald's plot track for tough and basic have different things to win. The heroes lose if either of these conditions is met. There are no crisis tokens left in the pool, or the Herald plot track reaches 9 or 12. So you're keeping one guy alive is going to constantly on step 4 is going to keep adding them tokens. You want to take a 1 as quickly as possible, so that way they're not adding too many tokens. But then you also have to worry about the overflowing, so their Herald track plot doesn't overflow. So pretty cool there. Alright, so then we are going to have their deck of cards. So we have all of them, and then we have their threat cards. So let's go ahead and look at what these threats are. We're going to drop this back down. So it says coordinated attack. Bam! One hero in this location takes damage for each villain in both adjacent locations. And then we have 2 of those. And we have diversion. Each civilian in this location and both locations requires 1 extra hero to be rescued. Joint forces. Each thug in this and both locations requires 2 damage to be defeated. Smart trick. When placing crisis tokens in this and both adjacent locations, place 1 extra crisis token. And hiding place. Each villain in this and both adjacent locations ignore 1 damage each hero turn. Awesome. So those are kind of fun. Then we have their regular deck of cards. They're just going to have Heralds of Galactus on them. There's the back of them with the four of them. So we have unexpected moves. Move 0. Move the villain in slots 2, 3, and 4 clockwise 1 location. Ooh, that could kind of mess up. And we have the same one with different placements on the bottom. Distracting the heroes. Increase the hero's plot track by 1. Heroes can prevent this effect. If they all discard 1 card from their hand to the bottom of their deck. We got a couple of these that have different placements as well as different moves. We have a 2, a 3, another 3, a 4, a 5. Then we have Fear Rises. Each hero with 1 or more crisis token takes 1 damage. And we got a 4 for that one as well. And we have Everything Falls Apart for a 2 and 1 with a 5, which says each hero location with 1 or more crisis token takes 1 damage. So very simple. They're just trying to place crisis tokens, either run you out of crisis tokens, or complete their master plan or their villainous plot. However gets them to win the game. So yeah, it's pretty fun. It says you're not going to use all of their special effects in there. Where was my board again? Yes, it says, just go back and look at this one more time. It says, all villains' special rules, overflow, and villainous plots are ignored. You will still use their BAM effects, though. So if they have BAM effects, they will definitely jump down and do that. So every villain's going to have a different little thing there. But that's the only thing you do on there. That and you keep, and their different health values would matter as well. So that's pretty cool there. We do get one other card to go with this mode, is we have Silver Surfer as a extra Herald. So this would again be like, if you own the Fantastic Four set expansion, because this one you'll actually need the miniature for. The Galactus one, you didn't really use the miniatures on the board. I mean, they're on the board, I guess, because they might have, so you know that they're on there. Yes, if you have this, you can also add in Silver Surfer to this as one of the heralds as well. Deal 2 damage to one hero in Silver Surfer's location. Then Silver Surfer moves to the location opposite to the hero played next. Can be damaged using heroic actions, and he gets to start with a little bit more health. But now, how do you play him on the board? So this is what's cool. So on the back side of our herald tokens, we have letters, so A, B, C, and D. So basically, just do as you take, they say take D, which is a silver one, and put it on the board instead to match Silver Surfer. So then when you activate, it might be, you know, Firelord, Terrax, and Nova, and then you do D would be Silver Surfer. That way, he just activated whenever that one came up on the board. So that's a pretty neat little extra bonus there. The other thing these are used for is the optional modular mode of the game. So we have Heralds of Galactus specifically designed for the heralds contained in this box. However, players may also choose to play against a team of different villains using Herald of Galactus components and rules. Note that some combinations of villains could be unbalanced. To do so, apply the changes to the Heralds of Galactus setup. Randomly assign Herald tokens to their letter size from A to D to each hero, placing one token on their villain dashboard and the other on the random slot. So that's where you mix and match these. So, example, if I wanted to make Star-Lord, he's a good guy. Who's a villain that I have off the top of my head? Ronan. I want to make Ronan the Accuser a Herald. I would put an A on his card and then A on the top of the dashboard to represent him on the board. So every time he comes up, you match your symbols up. So it says, ignore any BAM effect on the... ignore any villain's BAM effect related to elements and components not used in this game. The BAM effect increases a villain tracker, increase the Herald plot track instead. So if someone has a BAM effect that would do something really weird or outrageous, it wouldn't work. I just have a couple here. I just want to grab some quick. So like we have Scream, for example, if we used her. Does 1 damage to a hero in her location. Crisis token on henchmen. So that would still work. I was trying to see if we have any that are kind of weird. Nope, not really. Also, like Morbius might be another one. I just had a Spider-Man set sitting here. Deal 1 damage and give 1 crisis token to 1 hero in Morbius' location. That hero has 2 or more crisis, they take 1 extra damage. Again, you ignore the villainous plot, you ignore their overflow and their special rules. So you're just looking at their BAM and health. I think some of them that would be someone like Kingpin, who uses his plan tokens. Someone maybe like Sauron or Mojo, who have their tokens. Like any guys that generally come with tokens. The Horsemen, some characters aren't going to obviously be usable because they might not have their own dashboard, or might not work right. Like I don't think you'd be able to use it for the team ones like Demi-Goblin and Doppelganger are combined, or Quicksilver Scarlet Witch, or the Wrecking Crew, or the Brotherhood, which is Toad, Pyro, and Blob. Like, guys that are multiple figures on the same card aren't going to probably work well as a single Herald. Cool. Alright, so that is what we have for the 3 different game modes. So now we're going to go ahead and actually look at the villains and their stuff, which is, weird I didn't start with that, but that's what we're going to do. Alright, we're going to start with our anti-hero, but she's not purple figure. She is completely translucent fire. Here I'm like, I don't really have to paint the Human Torch or Iceman because they're those colors, except their bases were. Hers is just completely translucent, so I don't have to paint any of hers. Although maybe if I did, the only thing I might paint would be maybe her eyes, to kind of match that. But I have to figure out how to do that very well to get, but interesting. So this is Nova. For anyone not familiar, this is Frankie Rye's Nova, or Frankie Ray, sorry. She became I think she was Human Torch's girlfriend for a little while. She had like little firepower, and then she became a Herald of Galactus, became even more of a fire being. But yes, we're gonna go ahead and look at her hero deck, which is pretty cool. So we have Move and Heroic, Move and Attack, Move Attack, Just Attack, Heroic, Move, Wild, Double Wild, and then she has 3 copies of Nova Flame. Discard 1 card from your hand to the bottom of your deck to deal damage to everything else in your location. Discard all civilians there. She's going to take out everything. And then she does have a starting hand card, which is Pyrokinesis. As long as this card is based up in your storyline, at the beginning of your turn, you may place 1 crisis token in an adjacent location to damage there. So she's gonna, burn stuff, but she does damage to whoever's in that location, which is cool. And if you're wondering why she has her specific name behind her Nova, because there's also from the original game, year 1, season 1, there was Nova from the Nova Corps, who was Sam Alexander, and then in season 3 in the Annihilation box set, we have Nova Prime, who is Richard Rider. So there's other characters that were also named Nova. Alright, then let's look at her if she is a villain. And what does she do? She has special setup. Nova has no threat, so keep the threat token, keep the threat tokens in a side pool. Interesting. Alright, back this up just a tad bit more. You can see all this at once, and she has 6, 6, and 7 health. Special rule. Each location can have more than 3 crisis tokens at any time. Any excess tokens are added to the next clockwise location instead. When a location has 3 crisis tokens, add 1 threat to the clear mission. The end of the turn, effect of that location is cancelled. Interesting. Heroes end their turns in a location with 1 or more crisis tokens take 1 damage. Used before activating end of the turn effect. And, okay, cool. So she's gonna add tokens to the locations, and then after they get too many, you are clearing it, but you can't use the end of the turn effects. You can use it early instead of later. Bam, add 1 crisis token to both adjacent locations in Nova's location. Overflow can't be added, add 1 crisis token to that location. And building this plot, hero loses if every location has 3 crisis tokens. Ooh. So she's gonna keep bamming to add them, so you're gonna have to take her out pretty quick. But yeah, overflow you can kind of deal with. Interesting. Yeah, so let's hop down and let's look at her cards here. She's going to zoom back in a little bit. She has Nova Burst. Add 1 crisis token in Nova's location. She has another one. Does her for 1 movement. She has 1 for 2 movement. A 3 movement. And a 4 movement. And a 5. So every location has to have 3. So it'll take her a little while, but boy, that's going to be a pain. And then she has Nova Flare at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which all do the same thing. So if there is no crisis tokens in Nova's location, add 1 crisis token there. Pretty straightforward. So, but she's not a super terrible villain. Doesn't seem to be. She's kind of, I think, sort of like Silver Surfer in the sense is like she's reluctantly helping Galactus. But yeah, she's going to help him out, but she's not like, hey, she's not being hard to contend with. I do like the idea, though, of the locations all being available to have their end of turn effects right away. That's pretty fun. Alright, our next one, who I'm kind of surprised isn't also an anti-hero, is Firelord. I think generally in the comics he's a villain. He's treated more as a villain, but he's also in the Guardians 3000. He ends up being a Guardian of the Galaxy. Plus, I think he's helped out the heroes from time to time when need be. So he says, special setup. After performing step 7 of the setup, fill all empty slots in Firelord's starting location and both locations adjacent to the hero starting locations with thugs. Fill all empty slots in all other locations with civilians. Replace the 3 standard missions with free Firelord mission cards. Cool. So he has 3 extra cards here, doing something a little bit different with him. So we'll see what that does. If we flip him over, he has no health icons over here. Says, Firelord cannot be damaged. When a hero is KO'd, Firelord doesn't activate his BAM. Instead, draw a Master Plan card, add it face down to the storyline. Rescued civilians, defeated thugs, and cleared threats are placed on the first empty corresponding slot, starting at the leftmost free Firelord mission. BAM. In Firelord's location, rescue 1 civilian and defeat 1 thug, then deal 1 damage to the henchman, if any. Then defeat 1 damage to each other hero or villain there. Overflow, if they can't be added, draw Master Plan card, add face down to the storyline, and hero go. They complete all 3 missions. Cool. So you're just trying to complete missions to like rescue him, which is, I said, that's kind of thought was weird that he was a villain. Definitely also really cool miniature here. So you got the riding the flame wave. He's got the fire hair, and he's got his awesome fire staff, which I've always liked. So that's pretty cool. Alright, let's look at his cards. So first of all, let's check these free Firelord cards and see exactly how those work. So there are going to be 3 of them the exact same. So you have to rescue 4 civilians, defeat 4 thugs, and clear 2 threats. And then you have to do that 3 times. You have to defeat all 6 threat cards eventually. What are his threat cards? We have 5 copies of the Annihilus Seeker. Deal 1 damage to a hero in this location. In this location, each thug requires 2 damage to defeat, and each civilian requires an extra heroic to be rescued. So yeah, we just get a bunch of Annihilus Seekers, which is kind of cool. Kind of ties into the Annihilation box set. Which is why, again, I wish he would have been an anti-hero. That would have been kind of cool as well. But you get what you get, right? Let's look at his actual deck of cards. So he has Annihilus Seeker's Invasion. If any Annihilus Seekers threat cards have been cleared, put one of them back into play. The first clockwise location without a threat. He's going to have another version of those with a 1 movement, a 2 movement, a 2 movement, but now they're going to have thugs on the bottom, a 3 movement, a 4 movement, he's got a 4 movement with a civilian, a 5 movement with a thug. So yeah, that's gonna be crazy. He's gonna keep bringing those guys back over and over, if he can. And then he has Touring Inside. For each mission, completed mission, draw 1 Master Plan card. At face down to the storyline. Heroes may prevent this effect by taking 1 damage. Ooh, so he's gonna regrettably try and move the thing forward. And then he has just some more with different movement and different thug or civilian placements, and he has 4 copies of those. Yes, a very different and interesting villain to play as. So yeah, just trying to do stuff a little bit different. Then you also have to you have to do thugs, you have to do civilians, you have to do threats. You can't just focus on one at a time and get rid of one card, then the next card. So that's kind of interesting. Alright. Our third villain is Terax the Tamer or Terax the Terrible, depending on which way he wants to be at the time. So Terax has, scooch this over a bit. He has 6, 8, or 9 health. Special rule: when a hero is KO'd, Terax doesn't activate his BAM. Instead, increase Terax domination track by 1, so that's his bottom track down there. Heroes can't move using movement actions between locations with a movement token between them. Heroes can remove such a token by spending 1 movement action in one of these locations. Interesting. So he's going to drop move tokens between locations. You basically have to spend an additional move to be able to remove them, and then you can move normally. So I'm guessing they're going to kind of be like essentially like boulders or stuff in the way. BAM, deal 2 damage to one hero in Terax's location and opposite location. And Overflow increases domination track by 1. Villain is plot. Terax domination track loses when it hits 8. So very straightforward on how you beat him. He just has some interesting mechanics. We're going to see how that works. So there's his card. We'll drop this back down to get a look at his miniature. He does not come with any special coloring, unfortunately. But he does wield a huge axe. And then he has some, like, moon below him. He's definitely pretty cool. Alright, I love his metal thing. I'm not sure if that's just, like, a metal helmet thing, or if that's supposed to just be his beard. And it's designed like that on his body or species. Interesting. Alright, so we have some threat cards. We've got 3 copies of Terax the Tamer. So when he lands here, add 1 civilian to this location. Then if there are 3 or more civilians, increase the Terax domination track by 1. And then he has 3 copies of Terax the Conqueror. If he moves there, add 1 thug to this location. If there are 3 or more, increases domination track by 1. Pretty nice. Alright, then he has some basic movements, which we haven't seen for a little while, some of these guys. He has a 0, a 1, a 2, a 4, and a 5. And then he's got 2 copies of Hunger for Power. Bring 1 random cleared threat back into play in the next clockwise location without a threat. And then he's got Geokinesis. Place 1 move token between Terax's location and each adjacent one. And now you have to spend extra. So he's going to put up little, like, blocked walls in front of each other. And I'm guessing you can have more than 1. Heroes can't move between locations with a move token between them. Heroes can remove such tokens by spending 1 action in one of these locations. It doesn't say anything about how many he can have. So he could potentially place multiple, making it really hard for you to move around the board. So he has a 0 movement, a 1 movement, a 2 movement, a 4 movement, and a 5 movement. So he's just going to keep dropping stuff down, making it hard for you to get to him or get around the board to clear threats. They're going to be a pain. Pretty cool. Pretty interesting. Alright, so our last villain is probably the one most people don't know as much, is Airwalker. Who was, I believe, a Kree, and then when he died, I can't remember which direction it was. He went looking for Firelord after Firelord became a Herald, or vice versa. But at one point he dies, and then he gets resurrected in this android body. But yeah, kind of interesting. Also been sort of neat as I get like Nova and Firelord, and then he also has fire around him. Would have been almost neat if they would have had a fire, a water, an earth, and a winged guy, and we would have had the 4 elements. That would have been kind of cool too. So Airwalker has 5, 7, or 8 health. Special rules: hero may spend 2 hero tokens to any location with another hero to have that hero discard 1 crisis token. Bam, give 1 crisis token to 1 hero and Airwalker in both adjacent locations, then deal 1 damage to a hero and Airwalker in both adjacent locations. So you can heal each other, kind of, or at least take the target off you. Overflow, give 1 crisis token to a hero in that location in both adjacent locations. Villainous Plot, if the hero exclusive of a single hero ever has 4 or more crisis tokens. Awesome, so you don't want to keep getting rid of them so that no one gets too many. Cool. That's pretty straightforward. It's an interesting way to do it. His threats are, he has all 6 copies look like they're hyper light speed. It says Airwalker is in this location when a hero enters it. Move Airwalker clockwise to the next location with no heroes if possible. And so he's just going to be able to move around the board pretty quick. Alright, so before we looked at the rest of his cards, we forgot to show off his miniature. So here's his miniature. We have another fire base. Got some big old fire wings behind him. I do love how they literally have him airwalking. He's not touching the ground because he's got fire wings. But again, neat. We have 3 more fire characters, but it would have also been kind of cool to have elemental themed characters. Although Galactus hasn't had too many other heralds. There are some neat ones. Thor became one of his heralds for a while. I think Human Torch did for a very short while. Alternate Realities, Sabretooth, specifically Age of Apocalypse / Exile Sabretooth did. So that would have been kind of neat to have something like that. Sure, there's other people that have to. Dazzler became one for a while. Aunt May in What If comic. The Golden Ulti. So he has 0 movement with a BAM. A 1, a 1, a 2, a 2, a 4, a 4, a 5, and a 5. And then he has Horn of Galactus. Give 1 crisis token to each hero with the least crisis tokens. There's another one just with thugs in there instead. And then his last one is the Call. Give 1 crisis token to each hero with less than 2 crisis tokens. Pretty crazy. Alright, so that is what we have. That is The Coming of Galactus. This is a really fun Kickstarter set. So you get 4 brand new, you get 3 villains and 1 anti-hero, which is always fun. More characters to play as. But this, again, it has 3.5 modes. So the Galactus mode is pretty fun. You get to play against the different heralds. And they're just kind of defeating Galactus and trying to do different missions a little bit random each time, which is pretty cool. Getting to fight against all the villains by themselves, pretty standard, but they all play pretty neat. Lots of crisis tokens with them. Then the last mode, which is a really neat one, which I think more cool than the Galactus one, is the Heralds of Galactus. Fighting all 4 of them is kind of neat. I also like, again, that they didn't tie it to Galactus like they did with the Age of Apocalypse one. Kind of makes sense for that. I did it a little bit. I'm not going to say it's bad. It's, again, a neat thing. I'm just glad they didn't repeat that, is what I mean. Where they had to defeat the Heralds, and then that informed how you played against Galactus. So it's nice. You can just fight all 4 of them by themselves. But I love the alternative where you can add in any other villain. And then some are going to be better than others. You could add the Phoenix, some of the Phoenix 5 in there. You could add the symbiotes. You could have a team of symbiotes fighting against them. Some of the Sinister 6 characters. I was trying to look at who else we have for stuff. Yeah, just some of the other cosmic characters. You could have Thanos or his Black Order. Could also be heralds. Be kind of neat there. Doctor Doom, Kang, Red Skull. Yeah, so lots of really interesting things would be neat for that. Alright, that's what we have for this set. Hope you guys enjoy the Marvel United stuff. Check out all the rest of the sets. Hit me up in the comments. See you guys later. Bye.